Konnichiwa, I'm John Hornick. Welcome to my Japanese Faves series, where we'll cover every major type of Japanese food. This lesson is kushi-yaki. Kushi-yaki is a very popular type of Japanese food found in izakayas, which are Japanese pubs, or in dedicated kushi-yaki restaurants, or on street carts. Kushi means skewer, and yaki means grilled. So kushi-yaki is skewers of grilled morsels of protein and vegetables. Probably the most popular and best known type of kushi-yaki is yakitori, which is grilled skewered chicken. Yaki means grilled and tori means bird. If the skewered grilled food is anything other than chicken, it's kushi-yaki, and it could also have another name depending on the type of food. Importantly, kushi-yaki is served on the grilling skewers. Kaba-yaki, on which I have some separate lessons, is skewered and grilled, but it's not served on the skewers, so it's probably not presented as kushi-yaki. Kushi-yaki can be virtually any type of food that you can grill on a skewer. The food needs to be bite-sized pieces like beef, or long and thin like asparagus or shrimp. You can combine more than one type of food on the same skewer if it will cook at about the same rate. The food I'm using tonight is identified in the notes. I'm using kaba-yaki sauce for the grilling and GyuDare for the dipping. Ideally, each skewer should be served when it's hot, but if you want to serve everything all at once, cook the beef last and keep everything warm as it comes off the grill. The guest can either eat the food like a popsicle or remove the pieces to an eating plate with chopsticks, which is more common in restaurants. So you should provide both an eating plate and chopsticks for each guest. One more thing, don't confuse kushi-yaki, which is this lesson, which is grilled skewered food, with kushi-yaki, which is breaded and deep-fried skewered food, on which I have a separate lesson. So let's start cooking. All right, now I'm preparing the shiitake mushrooms to be used for kushi-yaki. And what I want to do is I want to get them just soft, okay? I don't want them to be, so when they're fresh, they're hard, they're brittle, they break, right? So if you put them onto the skewer, they may split. So I put them into a hot pan just for a little while until they are starting to get soft, okay? How do you know? So they're no longer hard and brittle. They are now just a little flexible, okay? So these are ready. I'm going to take these off of the heat. Okay, here we have the little potatoes that we're going to use. You can see they're pretty small, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to boil those until they are just pierceable with a toothpick. When the toothpick just goes through, okay? So I'm putting them into cold water, bringing it up to heat, and cooking them until you can just push a toothpick through them. All right, we're also going to use some of these tiny onions, and what you're going to do is remove the skin by cutting off the end part, not the root part, but the other end, okay? Just cut it right off, right there, and then plunge these into boiling water for 30 seconds, take them out, put them in an ice bath, and then I'll show you taking the skin off. Okay, here are our onions that are in an ice bath. We're just now going to, they were blanched in hot water for 30 seconds. Now we'll just peel off those skins. They'll come right off, okay? We're going to do that to each one of them. I'm not sure if that one was on the camera right, so let's do that one more time. Remember, you just cut off the end, just the very end here, okay? Put it into hot water for boiling water for 30 seconds. Plunge them into an ice bath, and then peel off the skins. We're going to do that with each one, but not on camera. Okay, now we're going to take the asparagus. Now you could cook the asparagus in one long stalk. You could cook it raw. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blanch them briefly. Then I'm going to wrap them in bacon, okay? So I'm going to put these into boiling water for 1 minute, okay? And then we'll take them out, put them into an ice bath. Okay, I blanched the asparagus for 1 minute in boiling water, plunged them into an ice bath, and you can see how green it makes them. Now, once they're breaded, it's not going to matter whether they're green or not. But these have now a little bit of flexibility, okay? It's going to be easier to put them on the skewer, and they will be a little bit more cooked rather than kind of al dente, which is what you might get if you use the raw asparagus. But like I said, you can use raw asparagus, and you can just use a whole stalk, bread that stalk the way I'm going to bread everything else, deep fry it that way. All right, now we're going to skewer the cherry tomatoes, and use an odd number, okay? It's in Japan, they never use 4. They use 3 or 5, okay? So use an odd number if you're trying to be somewhat authentic. You're gonna put, so I'm putting 3 on 3 skewers, okay? All right, now we're gonna skewer the potatoes. They cooked until you could just push a toothpick through them, okay? And we're gonna put 3 on the skewer. Again, as I mentioned, it's not common to see 4, okay? You usually see an odd number, 3 or 5, okay? So we're gonna put those on the skewer, 3 on a skewer. Okay, now we're gonna skewer our shiitake mushrooms. Again, stems were removed, okay? And they were cooked just long enough to make them flexible. You see, they're flexible now. When they're fresh, they're kind of brittle, they'll snap right in half. So what we're gonna do is fold it in half and push the skewer through it. And we're gonna put 3 on a skewer, okay? Okay, here we have our scallions, and we are going to, I've already cut off the ends, okay? Now we're gonna cut them to be about an inch, maybe a little over an inch long. And you can get 3, these 3 scallions here, you can get about 3 lengths from that. The rest we'll use for something else. Okay, now we're gonna skewer the scallions. And I'm gonna use, since I had 3 scallions, I'm gonna use 1 piece from each one of the cuts, okay? So you're getting 3 different pieces. You're getting a piece of all white, a piece of kind of white and green, and then you're getting a piece that's more green, okay? And we're gonna do that with each one of our scallions, okay? And again, use an odd number, 3 on a skewer, 3 or 5. All right, now we're gonna skewer our little onions, okay? And what we're gonna do first is remove the root end, okay? We had to leave the root end for when we were blanching them, but now we can take the root end off. And we'll do that with each one of the onions. Now we're gonna skewer the onions. Now, once these are breaded, you won't be able to tell that some are red and some are white and that some are yellow. But for presentation, when the guest is choosing what they want cooked, the Japanese will try to make it as attractive as possible. So we will use a red onion and a yellow onion and a white onion on each skewer, okay? And again, put an odd number on each skewer. All right, now we have some snow peas, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna blanch these for 1 minute, again, to make them more flexible so we can get them on the skewer better without them breaking. So you're gonna drop them into boiling water for 1 minute, then plunge them into an ice bath. All right, now we're gonna thread the snow peas onto the skewers. What we're gonna do is just put it in one end, out, and then back in the other end, okay? So we've kind of threaded it onto the skewer, and we're gonna do that with each one of them. Now, if you hadn't blanched them, this would be a whole lot more difficult. They'd probably snap. Okay, so we're going to do this with each one of the snow peas. And if you have a couple of short ones, like this one's fairly short, I'm going to put 2 on the same skewer. Okay. All right, now we have the shishito peppers, and these we're going to skewer them 1 at a time. And these particular shishitos were monsters, okay? So they were pretty big. I tried to pick the smaller ones for this, and I'm putting 1 on each skewer. If you had really small ones, you might be able to get 2 on each skewer. I'm putting 1 on each skewer. And if you have, if they're kind of long and kind of bent or crinkly, you can kind of thread them, kind of in and out of the pepper. Like this one's a good example. Coming out one side and going back in to get it on the skewer. Okay, now for regular onions, large onions, what I've done is I've cut a slice that's about 3/4 of an inch thick, okay? And then I cut the slice into wedges, all right? Now what we're gonna do is thread the skewer through the wedge, so we end up with a piece that's kind of pie-shaped like this, okay? I'm gonna do that with each one of the wedges. You're gonna have to hold them together until you get them skewered, okay? Yeah, I found this great pickled garlic in a Middle Eastern grocery store, and I'm going to put onto the skewer one clove of pickled garlic and one piece of watermelon pickle. Japanese are really big on pickles, okay? So we're gonna just do some pickles as well for part of this lesson, all right? So we're gonna put one watermelon pickle and one pickled garlic onto each skewer, and I'm alternating them back and forth so that they make a nice presentation. Okay, I mentioned earlier that I was going to wrap the asparagus in bacon. So I have some bacon pieces here. They're probably the width of a piece of bacon and probably about 3 inches long. We're going to take 2 pieces of asparagus. That's the tip part and the lower part, and we're going to wrap them up in a piece of bacon, okay? Okay, then we're going to skewer them, okay? So I'm going to find the end of the piece of bacon and I'm going to press the skewer through. I'm going to try to get it through the asparagus out the other side, okay? Again, through the end of the piece of bacon, through the asparagus, and out the other side. All right, now here we have the anchovies. Now these are not canned anchovies. These are anchovies that have been preserved in oil. And anchovies are very big in Japan, fresh anchovies. And what we're going to do is we're going to thread them onto the skewer, 1 per skewer. All right, now we've blanched the asparagus and plunged it in an ice bath. Now we're going to skewer it. I've already showed you skewering asparagus wrapped in bacon. Okay, so that's the asparagus. We're going to do each of the asparagus pieces that way. All right, now we're going to portion our beef, and this is Mishima Wagyu A5, very fine Japanese beef. However, it was grown in the United States, and I have a separate lesson on Wagyu beef, and I personally have come to believe that the Wagyu that we get in the United States, the Wagyu that we get in the United States is not as good as the Wagyu that we grow in the United States. However, I think the Wagyu that you get in Japan is the best in the world. We just don't get that in the US. At least I don't believe we do. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece. This is about 4 ounces. This is enough for 2 people, okay? In the United States, people eat big pieces of beef, but this beef is very rich, and it's with a lot of other foods. And we are going to serve about 2 ounces per person. And I'm going to cut these to be about 1/4 of an inch thick in 1 slice. Now you can see that broke, so we're going to just skewer it that way. And we're going to have to judge this as we go along, because as we get down to the end, we're going to have some more fat. So we may have to portion the pieces a little bit differently. But although you might start off with only 4 ounces, after you cut it, you think, wow, that's actually a pretty good amount of beef per person, all right? Especially when you're combining it with all of the other foods that we have been preparing. Now, when you slice it, you shouldn't saw it. You should slice in 1 continuous slice. Sometimes I violate that rule and shouldn't. And this piece that we have here on the end, I am going to cut that this way and skewer it, and we'll try to cook it as it is. All right, now we're going to skewer these pieces. We're going to put it in the thin side, right, in the thin side, and bend it, fold it a little bit, have it come out the other side, and so we have it kind of threaded through the beef, okay? We're going to do that with each one of the pieces. Again, we're going in the end of it, bring it up through the piece of beef, threading it through and having it come out through the end of it again, okay? Okay, here we have our vegetables. First we have some asparagus wrapped in bacon. This asparagus was blanched for 30 to 60 seconds and then plunged into a nice bath wrapped in bacon. And then we have our shishito peppers, and we have our scallions, cherry tomatoes. We have small potatoes, mini potatoes. Those were blanched for just until a toothpick could be pushed through them easily. Then we have our mini onions, which had the tops cut off, plunged into boiling water for 30 seconds, and then into an ice bath, then cut off the root end, or peel off the skins and then cut off the root end. And then we have our wedges of white onion, and then we have our snow peas. These were blanched for 30 seconds, plunged into an ice bath, and then skewered. And we have our asparagus. Those were blanched the same as the other asparagus. Here we have our shiitake mushrooms. These were cooked until they were just flexible. And then here we have a piece of pickled garlic and pickled watermelon rind. Now what we're going to do is we're going to brush all of these lightly with olive oil, okay? And then we're going to season them, okay? Okay, now we're going to season them lightly. And if you watch my other videos, you know that seasoning means always and only salt and pepper. Seasoned with a little salt, and then some freshly ground black pepper. Okay, here we have our beef and some of our anchovies. We're going to lightly season the beef. I'm not going to put any salt on the anchovies. And then we're going to use a little bit of freshly ground black pepper on everything, including the anchovies. Okay, we're going to make final preparations for service. We have our serving plate for one person's serving of the kushi-yaki. We have some GyuDare, some toasted sesame seeds, and a little bit of sea salt and Shichimi Togarashi for each guest. Okay, now we've heated our binchotan charcoal. You could also do this on a charcoal grill or on a gas grill, but I am trying to be fairly authentic, as authentic as I can be in the US. So I have binchotan charcoal here, which I have a separate lesson on using binchotan and a conro. And we're placing it carefully into the conro so that hopefully we get kind of a pyramid. Okay, so then it's all in the conro. We're going to put the grate on top. Now the grate, we brushed that earlier with a little bit of oil. So now we're going to put some food on the grate. Okay. Now I'm not going to show you the cooking all of it. Okay. Just a little bit of it. What we're going to do though is, because we want to serve this all at the same time, we're going to do the meat last. Okay. Now what we're going to do is lightly, very lightly brush these with a little bit of kaba-yaki sauce. Okay. And we're going to turn them fairly often. Now, if you can, touch them, use the skewer with your fingers and turn it. If it's too hot for that, use tongs. All right, we're starting to get some brown, and each time we turn them, which has probably been about every 30 seconds to a minute, more like every minute actually, every time we turn them, we're going to very, very lightly dab them with a little bit of kaba-yaki sauce. Okay, well, our snow peas are getting really well done here, and so are the shishitos, and I'd say that these scallions are looking really good, and these mini onions are looking really, really good, and also the asparagus wrapped in bacon is looking great, if you can see that. And also, let's see, I'm going to let the potatoes go a little longer, we'll let the onions go a little longer, and the mushrooms and the tomatoes. I'm going to put some more things on the grill and then keep these others warm because we're going to serve everything all at the same time. So put what I can on there. Now we're going to brush all of them lightly. You know, I think these onions are looking beautiful. They're charred on one side, kind of browned on the other. Okay, good. And we're going to try to take these anchovies off as well. They kind of escaped. Some of them escaped from the skewers. It's best to make extras in case that happens. Okay. All right, now let's do our beef. And we want to watch the beef closely because we don't want it to overcook. We want it to be rare because when we take it off, we're going to have some residual cooking and it could get to medium at that point. This beef is really best eaten rare to medium rare. So we're going to keep a close eye on it. We were keeping a close eye on the others too, but we want to be extra special careful with this beef to make sure that we don't overcook it. So in the time that it took me to lay them down and brush them, I'm now going to turn them. Now that I've turned them, I'll brush them again. The time it took me to do that, I'm going to turn them again. Brush them again. Turn them again. These are looking like they're getting very close. Brush them one last time. Turn them one last time. Okay, let's take them off. Now, I did that in real time. I am not going to speed that up so that you can see how long, or I should say how short a time it took to cook this beef. Okay, here we have the finished presentation for each guest. Okay, we have the scallions, the Mishima Wagyu, onion, shiitake mushrooms, anchovy, shishito pepper, watermelon rind, and pickled garlic, mini onions, cherry tomatoes, small potatoes, snow peas, oh, some more scallions down here, and the asparagus wrapped in bacon. We also have some sashimi Togarashi and a little sea salt, some sesame seeds, and GyuDare for each guest. You can see photos of the final dish at my Instagram, which is @ChefsApprentice, Cook Like a Pro. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.